Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome back to a new market review. Going to be talking a little bit about BTC, altcoins, the higher time frame, the mid-term, the low-term time frame. We're going to be covering a lot today. Try and keep this under 10 minutes, although I have a fair few things to discuss. I enjoy doing these market reviews on Tuesdays now. Once we get Monday out of the way, we can look at Tuesday and progressing on for the rest of the week. FOMC tomorrow. Personally not expecting too much to come out of FOMC. Interest rates likely to remain unchanged, and I expect in the meantime Bitcoin to risk off a little bit today into tomorrow towards FOMC. So given there's not much to talk about really in the crypto market lately, people seem to fixate on things like FOMC a lot more, numbers and data coming out. I mean, especially with Trump in office at the moment and everything Trump is doing, a lot of people are paying attention to real world events more so than ever, real world news outlets, things like that, tariffs, etc. Moving away from that and talking about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin, I want to discuss a little bit about why I expect new highs in May and why I expect the Bitcoin bottom, local bottom, to be very close, along with a few things like the intraday, intra-week plan for BTC and overall getting the perfect entry for spot to capture this rally over the next couple of weeks into May, or month, you could say. So the first thing I want to discuss is BTC structure. This is something that I've been very vocal on, and I think something everyone should be paying attention to. It's a very simple way of understanding which direction Bitcoin can trade in, and until this structure shifts on Bitcoin, then expect us to continue to trade lower. So what we have simply is just a daily structure, a base area that has formed, and then following the breakdown of the base area, we eventually reject on a retest, right? And we can basically see that we are doing the same thing here on BTC, trading underneath this 84k to 85k region, and currently we are getting pushed down over and over again every time we try to break above there. You can even see on the lower time frame as well at the moment. Last night, price attempted to break out. We pretty much trapped a load of longs into the breakout, and then once we accepted back under there, we flushed these longs out. So for me, until this daily structure shifts, I don't expect BTC to break out just yet. And you'll be surprised if you look across the whole market right now, you're going to see a lot of this sort of structure playing out. Ethereum is the exact same. If we look at Ethereum structure, you can see on the daily that you have a support, price breaks down, it rejects support area, price breaks down, it really struggles to get back above support, price breaks down, didn't even retest that area. Support, price breaks down, again, kind of retested, but not much. Support, breakdown, support, right? Until we see a big shift in this structure and a change in this structure, right? I don't expect too much to happen in terms of a big breakout. If we do get a breakout above 84, 85k, I do expect BTC to trade into 93k and we get a nice squeeze across the whole market, which I'll talk about later on. So for now, continue to watch this daily structure, which leads me on to the next segment, talking about the current daily momentum on BTC. So right now we do have this momentum divergence forming on BTC, both on the RSI and the Awesome Oscillator. So it's very important for me that following a divergence like this, we see a change in structure. The change in structure, that will be the shift back above 84k, right? So if BTC can shift above 84k, then I'm pretty sure we look at playing this daily divergence out and probably rallying into that 93k region like I just mentioned. A good example is back in February when BTC did form a daily divergence, right, on the daily chart, and you can see that we still failed off the back of that divergence to shift structure, right? It was already in this downtrend, this lower high downtrend, right? And it failed to shift that structure. Following that, it made new lows. So that's why I think even though we have a daily divergence here, which historically acts as a really nice bottom for BTC over time, it's important that we see a shift in structure before considering a potential reversal. So with that, I do think there's a chance that as long as this daily structure does not shift on Bitcoin, we can make one fresh low, maybe into that 73 to 72k region, where BTC forms a nice 3 drive into the low. The daily divergence puts in another, a daily RSI puts in another divergence. Also, Awesome Oscillator does the similar thing, and then that would be our true local bottom. Again, I'm subject to consider this scenario with the 3 drive into the low. We can write that off if we see a flip above 84k, but for now, this remains a big resistance. So moving on to the intra-week side of things, looking at the market profile, I posted on my Twitter this morning, which I posted on the top left of the screen. You can see there. If you do not follow me, you can do so already. I'm looking for some reversion today into FOMC tomorrow. Historically, we do risk off on FOMC, into FOMC, and I'm looking for a pop into anywhere from 83,500 to 84,200 for a short. I think anywhere into that region remains a really nice place for a short, and then we target a move into the composite point of control and the composite value area low. I think we'll be lucky if we get a pop that high today, but we are seeing a lot of shorts build up this morning, along with a lot of longs. So both sides are positioned heavy here. I'm pretty much waiting for some positions to be offside, some short positions to be offside, and I'm going to look for a long, target these single prints up here, and taking a short given whichever single print gives me a nice trigger, using order flow for that. So the single prints come from our pre-close session market profile along with our Asia session profile. We have 2 single prints market imbalances that were formed overnight, and I think these can act as a nice place to look for a short back lower. But the market profile is very clear to us that the price is ranging right now on BTC. I think a lot of people are looking for the breakout, and that's not going to come until we see that big shift in daily momentum. So this is the intra-week side of things. Following FOMC, we have to consider, what data comes. Personally, I think rates remain unchanged, but we still have to consider other scenarios from that outcome. So let's say if BTC gets above 84k, personally, I'm going to be looking at meme coins to long. I like the look of Pepe and Bonk. To me, I think these are heavily exhausted and heavily oversold to the downside with nice momentum divs into the lows. They also remain on these really must-hold levels. For example, Pepe here. If Pepe fails to hold this big weekly and monthly support, it's taken a trip down to 0.002, which is, crazy prices, given that would be February 2024 prices. For me, I don't expect this to happen. I think these are due a squeeze, especially a lot of meme coins. They're very heavily exhausted to the downside, and I think they can make a squeeze to the upside if BTC starts to flip that 84k region. But like I said, until then, looking for that extra move low into 76 to 74. So to talk about why I think BTC can make new highs into May, looking at the higher time frame side of things, we've discussed the midterm, we've discussed the lower time frame, and now I'm going to look at the higher time frame. So looking at the fear and greed index, we can see that fear is very low right now. When we look at the index for the chart, we're in that lower blue and purple brackets, which historically, if we look at all of our lows for this cycle, pretty much every time we get into that blue and purple fear section of the index, we can see right back in July and August, we got down to 29, like sub 30 into low 20s. Again, here we're seeing low 20s on the fear and greed index. So this is a really nice way to indicate that, there could be some relief very soon. Fear tends to be a great buying opportunity in the market, and I think you should consider this when moving into this 73k region. If we get a sweep, watch how much fear there is in the market, and it will tend to be a fantastic buy opportunity. I believe that if we do get that move into the low 70s, we see sub 20 on the fear and greed index, which again, I'm going to be looking at buying personally. Another thing I want to comment on is the M2 global supply. So, and I quote, this is the global money supply chart that shows growth of the top 21 central banks against the price of Bitcoin and compares it to the values from a year ago. So this chart I only looked at recently. Personally, I only tend to look at charts with good historical data, ones that are reliable. For me, macro data, which has a nice effect on BTC price and has history to show it, so is something that I would be happy to consider into my bias, right? So looking at the M2 global supply, we can see that the M2 topped in April. 2 months later, following that, BTC topped in July, right? 2 months after. So the M2 tops in April, makes a new high. BTC tops in July, 2 months later. Again here, the M2 tops in January, making new highs. Following that, BTC makes a new high in March and tops out. Again in September, the M2 rallied, made a new high. Following that, BTC made a new high in December. Now we look at the current pricing of the M2, now topping in March. Following a sell-off that it just had, it's already topping out in March. If we consider that with BTC, and we look at the fact that BTC is trailing the M2 by about 2 months, we could say that BTC is going to put in a top towards May, new highs towards May. You can also go back and look at this for yourself, but pretty much the fear and greed index bottomed every time the M2 made a new high. When the M2 made a new high, BTC bottom, and the fear and greed index went into that sub 40 area. Looking at the growth from each halving, we can see that since the halving back in April of this year, BTC only put in a 70% move. Personally, I think BTC has legs for at least a 200% move from that halving price, which if we look at April this year, 200% move for me would be around that 180k mark, which again, evaluation for me is that I think we can top out towards 160 to 200 this cycle. Overall, I think BTC is just doing one of its pre-parabolic pullbacks. I think we are very close to a local bottom now. This is our first big pullback over the course of this cycle, something we are not immune to, and we can see happens over and over again in this cycle. We are just seeing what seems to be a more aggressive pullback compared to historical ones during this 2022 to 2025 bull market. So to quickly summarize, as we have run over a little bit, looking for a short into 83,500 to 84k this week, for a reversion down to 81k. Ideally, we can get a little pop into there. I am looking for some long triggers today, especially with heavy shorts entering down here into New York Open. New York Open is in 45 minutes. So if we can get a little squeeze in New York Open, I think we look at fading anything into that 83,400 to 84k region as we risk off tomorrow into FOMC. Thank you if you got this far in the video. Thanks for stopping by to this week's market report. Please check out the socials below. Post daily thoughts, write-ups and trades in the Wealth Group Discord, which is linked below. I hope to see you guys next week.